Hi, welcome to Books and Crafts. I'm Wendy and this is Angie and we're with Ella Publishing and we're so happy to have you here.
Today we're going to talk about decorating books. Now, we've done a lot of things on past episodes that show you how to rip a book apart or, repurpose a book or punch through pages and do all kinds of fun things with them. Well, this episode is about just making the books that you already love and would not ever want to rip apart or destroy, just adding some personal creative touches that really make them yours, to personalize them.
Yes, and there's so many different ways that you can do this using all of your crafting skills and your supplies. We're just going to show you a few of our favorites.
Absolutely. So to start with, this is a book called Refuge that I borrowed from Wendy and loved it. It is about, actually we're from Utah, and it is set in Utah, and it's a memoir, and it's this woman talking about her mother and her experience in the 80s when there was this great flood in Utah, which is unusual because we live in the desert. So, and it has to do with migratory birds, and she's, a scientist, and just all of these beautiful, fascinating, interweaving concepts in this book. And one thing I love about it is that I read a lot of books that are set other places that seem exotic and different to me. And
New England, Maine.
Yeah, that seems just so much more literary. And I haven't read a ton of stuff set in Utah that is as beautifully written as this. And it's so nice. I encourage you to try to find a book that is set where you live and that can just elevate the surroundings you see every day into something even more beautiful. So I loved it for that reason, because it really hit home to me because I'm familiar with all the environments and landscapes that are described in this book. Well, after reading it from Wendy, I decided I needed a copy of it and somehow ended up with 4 copies, somehow ordering and reordering and trying to cancel. And I ordered from used online bookstores and ended up with 4 copies.
That's awesome.
So I decided that I was going to take one of those copies and personalize it and make it a little bit more beautiful than it is by itself. It's fairly straightforward and plain when you remove the book jacket. It's just a plain standard book.
Yes.
And I transformed it into something that is a little bit more suited to me and my style. And I just had fun covering this half of the book. And I used just a few really simple supplies. I'll show you. I have an old road atlas. And I ripped out the Utah page out of this atlas and used that to cover the book. And you can decoupage, but all I needed for this project was a good glue stick and a bone folder.
Oh, yes.
And the bone folder, you just saturate the paper really good with the glue and then just use that to smooth out the creases and get that glue nice and smooth underneath your paper. And really, it's this simple to do a project like this.
It's like there's some distressing. How did you manage to do that? Because this is not the same as you would find in an atlas.
Oh, absolutely. So there is the atlas behind that. And on top of that, I just kind of dry painted.
Oh, okay, dry brushed,
painted with just white acrylic paint. And before I did that, I had a couple of stamps that I felt were suited to the topic of the book. And then I added the initials TTW, Terry Tempest Williams, who wrote the book. They're actually debossed on the original, so I thought it would be nice to
Oh, that's a great idea. So you followed along. And you can see right here where Salt Lake City is. And I love that idea, kind of making it a little more meaningful and reminding you of what you loved about the book.
Yeah, because this is set, we live right here. And Wendy lives right up here. And so we have this whole landscape, and the way it was described was just so beautiful and meaningful.
That's awesome.
So I had so much fun with this project, and I thought, is that a weird thing to do? Would anyone else do this? And I asked a friend of mine, Kelly Jepson, to do the same thing, or just to decorate a book that she loved. And this is a book, The Chief American Poets, that belonged to her husband's great-grandmother.
Oh my goodness. So there's some historical value also. It's almost like an heirloom.
It is. And it's got some of the handwriting here in the front.
$1.75.
Can you imagine?
Wow.
So it's this awesome book of poetry, and there was a frontispiece here at the beginning that had pictures of all of the poets. So she just cut their little faces out and made this fun, eclectic little flower using their images to make this cover a little bit more personal, and she would actually maybe display this now in her home.
Yes, instead of putting it, on a bookshelf, you would definitely like set it on an easel, forward facing.
And show that off.
Yeah, it's beautiful and very tasteful.
And then she just took a little phrase from a poem, "Listen, my children, and you shall hear," and she painted that with a paintbrush right on the front.
Oh yeah, I love that one. That's awesome.
Now, if you're a little bit afraid of getting that destructive with your book, so you don't have to do anything that's permanent and will permanently alter it forever, there are other fun ways to add fun, decorative touches to a book. Like
this looks
one.
Familiar.
Yeah, thank you, Wendy. This was a birthday gift to me from Wendy. And rather than just giving me the book, she tied a little bit of fabric and this cute key on the front. And I actually do keep this on display in my living room. Have you noticed?
Just cute. I have.
It's just on the top of a stack of books, and I just love the little extra touches. And it's kind of a crafty look to the book, and it also fits in with the decor in my house, and it reminds me of a friend that I care about. So it's a fun thing to have. So you can always think of just little things you can tie onto a book, especially to make it a nice gift, or if you just have it on a display in a stack of books, just to add that fun extra touch.
Yes, that's so cute. I'd forgotten how cute it was.
And then there are other ways to, decorate a book. These stickers I just added to the front of this book, and clearly someone has been maybe reading this book in the bathtub, and I'm not going to say who, but there's a little bit of water here, and you can just, to detract away from that, just add some simple stickers. This is a Karen Foster product of just clear stickers, and the thing about these is that they can peel. I tested this. They can peel right off, and they don't hurt the book beneath. So this can just be a temporary thing that I just want to add a little bit of an additional
personalization.
Yeah.
What are these? I love those crystals.
And I brought in a few other things. Now, these are going to be a little bit more permanent, but there's other options for decorating a book cover, like these fun jewels.
Oh, I love those.
Aren't those fun?
Yes.
And I think this glue is usually pretty tacky in order to keep
so it would stick on a book.
The glue and paste, which is good. It'll stick to a book, but then it's going to be hard to remove.
Yes.
So if that's a concern of yours, just keep that in mind. You want to find something that's easily removed if you're not wanting to damage the book
and you
cover.
could even just take a portion of these and embellish the spine if you didn't want the front to be the one that had to be forward facing.
Definitely.
So
yeah,
I love
depending on how
that.
you arrange your books. If you have them, sideways on a bookshelf. And of course, rub-ons are always another fun option.
Oh, yes.
For decorating a book cover, and those are probably going to be a little bit more permanent too.
Yes, just expect them to stay on.
So I hope that's given you a few fun ideas for how you might personalize and decorate books that you love and want to keep, and you want to put your own signature stamp on.
Oh, I love that. In fact, I want to just go do it to a few of my favorites. And this is our book
Speaking
pick
of favorites.
part. Oh my goodness. And when we started talking about combining things that we love, like books and crafts and scrapbooking, one of the books that I knew I wanted to talk about or recommend is Little Bee. And oh my goodness, the cover is just really engaging and enticing. And this is a book that is not for the faint-hearted. I'm giving you a disclaimer because it definitely, it talks about a refugee from Nigeria and her experiences as she's living in England and the people she meets, and it also goes back to some of her experiences in the country that she's just left, and there's some violence involved. The reason why I want to recommend this book is because it has stayed with me, and I think I read it a couple years ago, and the characters really moved me, and I felt like a better person after reading this story, and I would definitely suggest that you give it a try. Don't, if you're, like I said, faint-hearted. There is some violence in there, and it's not, it's relevant to the story, but it's just a very moving tale, and I also love that it's written by a man, and I was really drawn to his narrative style. So that's my recommendation this week.
Yeah, it's a great one, and he does really somehow get into the mind of women, and just
Yes.
It's a fantastic portrait, a little bit brutal in parts, but it's very well told.
Yes.
And my pick this week is probably going to be a little bit familiar because it's the one we experimented on with these removable stickers. But this book is called Bel Canto, and it's by Ann Patchett, who's one of my favorite writers. And this is also a fiction book, and it is set in an unnamed South American country where this group of kind of elite people, government officials and opera singers and highbrow people, are taken hostage by a band of rebels that live in the country, and they're very young people, and it just the contrast between the wealth and the poverty and the story as it unfolds, you get so drawn in and invested in these characters, and just a beautiful story that I wouldn't have thought I would love this much based on the premise, but once I really got into it, it's definitely one of my favorites. That's a keeper for me.
And I've had the opportunity also to read that, and I would say similar to Little Bee, it leaves an impression with you. And 5 years from now, you could see this book and you will be able to recall the story and, the things you learned from it. And to me, that makes a very good read when you can remember it years from now, I would say.
I agree.
And be sure to check out, for all the book picks that we share, we've compiled them on our website.
And the website is ellapublishing.com/book picks. And it's direct links to every single book, little pictures, synopsis, everything that you want on all the books we feature on our show.
So thank you so much for joining us on Books and Crafts. We can't wait to see you next time.